today we'll be talking about the history of metal. First up, we talk about metal's inspirations and the starting of the genre. Steppenwolf and their hit song Born to Be Wild is believed to have created the inspiration for the name of the genre, with the phrase heavy metal thunder, as well as the phrase heavy metal poisoning, which was used a lot of the time due to the industrial accidents. The origins surrounding metal music theory have formed and take inspiration from other genres such as classical music, jazz and blues music. Steppenwolf, alongside Led Zeppelin, Judas Priest, bands such as Slade or Thin Lizzy, became the forefront and the forefathers of creating metal through their experimentation with different styles of guitars, different lyrics, heavier themes and other aspects. However, the grandfathers of metal, who we will discuss later, reside in this next location. Birmingham, England is considered to be the birthplace of heavy metal and the genre as a whole. The city has given birth to some of the most inspirational and popular bands in the world in both metal and rock music history. Particularly in the 1960s to the 70s, the music scene in the city was and still is quite active and has now become a place of interest for those interested in the origins of many famous metal and rock musicians, such as the next band we will speak about, and other famous bands that I've previously mentioned. Birmingham itself as a city took a large part in the Industrial Revolution, which was a reason why so many musicians decided to sprout out of the woodworks. Working in poor conditions and even poorer living quality made it so that their pain and grief and other emotions could be expressed freely through the music that they played, and the way in which they expressed themselves lyrically. The undisputed founders of heavy metal, Black Sabbath, reside from Birmingham and had been creating music to get out of factory work that was inherently dangerous, as well as to express themselves and the situations they were in at the time. The genre that they had created / helped to create would later be turned into a subgenre of metal or rock called doom metal, which would colloquially be referred to as stone rock, characterised by the distorted guitar riffs accompanied by usually quite meaningful and metaphorical lyrics, with themes usually surrounding the supernatural or horrific themes, especially when pioneered by Black Sabbath, who had specifically said they wished to create the same feeling of fear as in horror movies but through music. Specifically surrounding Sabbath, their early music would focus on personal experiences which would be derived into mystical themes. The Big Four is a title specifically given to the four biggest bands in thrash metal, a subgenre of metal characterised by fast guitar riffs as well as similar satanic themes or things based on the government or current world issues. This was a big craze in the 1980s and onwards, as different subgenres would begin to sprout and create more experimental aspects of metal rather than just drony riffs as doom metal portrays. This aspect of the history of metal showcases the creation and evolution of subgenres in the metal scene, as well as how they are used to help express different ideologies, ways of life, fashion and general culture, whether it's popular or more underground through the style of music, as well as the themes and messages through lyrics. This section of metal history showcases the need to evolve in music and how it became popular throughout time and less underground compared to when it was created. Now that you know the brief history of metal, it's time to see how all of that experimentation impacts the world around us today. After researching about the beginning history of metal and how impactful it was on other things such as subgenres and other styles of metal, I had to go looking for myself. But first I went looking for icons of the band Black Sabbath plastered around Birmingham, and my first stop was Grand Central Station. Into Grand Central Station I went, looking for different memorabilia to Black Sabbath, and there he was, Ozzy the Bull. People passing in and out of the station would stand and stare at his imposing figure. Ozzy was almost the protector of the station, if anything, and stood watching over everybody as they walked through, casting his dark, shadowy eyes on those who entered the nearby area.
Here lies the 2022 mascot for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, unveiled there by Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne's wife. He now resides here in Grand Central Station, a hub for all things transport related and people going in and out of Birmingham. The figure itself represents the working class aspects of Ozzy, with him being created out of old sheet metal and different types of like springs and such, and as well as his big imposing figure to be as almost a protector of the area, showing off the working class roots of the band itself, being named after Ozzy Osbourne, the Black Sabbath's founding member, as well as showing similarities such as his place of origin and where he comes from.
As I set off from my destination, I decided to head off into the city and walk around, analysing its many different pathways and areas. I realised how important music was to places like this and places all around the world, and how it brings people together from different cultures, backgrounds and societies, and it makes people show off their creativity and flair. Next on my mission was to find a specific mural in Digbeth, the other side of Birmingham, near the O2 Institute. The place itself is full of graffiti and artistic flair, and showcases people's creativity from limits that you would never see anywhere else. However, this place is like a labyrinth, boasting many different turns and paths to get you lost. Finally, however, I had found it. This beautiful piece of artwork was hidden away near an alleyway next to a coffee shop in Digbeth. This art piece showcases Ozzy Osbourne pouring tea into a cup with his iconic smile, showing how he himself, through his solo career and through Black Sabbath, have changed many people's lives, despite being from humble beginnings. Next up on our Black Sabbath tribute hunt, the Black Sabbath Bridge, placed in memory of every member of Black Sabbath, showcasing how much they mean to Birmingham as a whole and what they bring to the city through pioneering metal and making it popular to the masses, as well as creating some iconic music that has been used throughout generations. The bridge itself showcases each member of Black Sabbath as a cutout so people can take pictures, which has become an amazing tourist attraction, giving the people memory of Black Sabbath and making a tourist attraction out of it also. The bridge itself is incredibly popular amongst tourists who are fond of Black Sabbath and is a must-go-to place in Birmingham. However, speaking about all these iconic tourist destinations makes me realise how influential Black Sabbath is and was on people's lives. The band itself were not much at the time, however, through history and through time, they have grown to become one of the world's most known bands, with their music being played in all kinds of media, and their lyrics creating meaning through people's lives, and even showing their artistic flair through their music, such as this mural also found in Birmingham. This specific piece of artwork I had no idea about until I stumbled across this video during my research. It showcases all of the members of Black Sabbath in an almost ghostly figure, watching over people in the shadows as it is tucked away behind this scaffolding, and possibly showcasing the hold Black Sabbath has on people in the modern day.
Next up, I'll be talking about 3 bands from separate subgenres of metal that influenced me. I'll be talking about how each one stands up in its own right and how I believe they stand out amongst the rest, how they inspire me personally to be creative and just in general, and how their music and style and everything else influence people as a whole, the metal community, me personally, and how I believe they should influence people, and how the things they do make themselves look good. I will also be talking about general trivia and things like that, and the history of the bands and anything else that I can find out. Next up, here are the bands.
First up we have Slipknot, a new metal band from the 90s that have many members both past and present. The band is well known for their use of harsh vocals from vocalist Corey Taylor, as well as many different types of percussion from drum kits to even hitting a keg, and even DJs, which is what make the band nu metal in genre. Speaking of nu metal is a genre of metal that was created in the 90s that surrounds elements of modern metal as well as elements of rap and DJ/electronic sections that make the genre stand out slightly to others with their experimental elements and ways of trying new things. Slipknot have become the first band on this list as they were the first metal band that I'd ever listened to throughout my childhood, and once I'd rekindled my love for them, I knew that they would be one of my favourite bands of all time. From seeing them live to seeing them on video, they have always been a treat to me, and have contributed to the way I see the world and love metal so much in my life. I would say that nu metal and Slipknot themselves would be a great intro/starter band for people getting into metal, as they are not incredibly heavy compared to some of the bands on this list. However, they are still a strong contender in their own right, and have shown that throughout the history of the band's creation they are nothing to scoff at. Slipknot has become one of the most recognised metal bands and pop culture icons throughout history, which means they are a great introductory to people trying to get into metal. However, they also have some very underground music that is not known very well by the public, as well as different experimental things that they try throughout their albums, which show both negatively and positively to fans. As you can see through these videos, the masks change over time through different phases of the band. Each album most likely brings out new masks, and these masks usually symbolise something emotional or symbolic for each person. This usually materialises in some form of scary mask, usually surrounding some form of the band's collective emotion or just for scare factor, which we can see throughout these videos, as well as a move in direction for what kind of music they wish to make, in terms of whether they wish to move in a different direction for different albums or stick to what they originally were known for. And through humble beginnings, they've created/founded some of the most unique parts of metal, in my opinion, and have created songs with lyrics that touch people's hearts and feelings and express how they feel inside through their loud screams and expressive behaviours. Now on to the next band of my choice. Killswitch Engage are a metalcore band formed in 1999. They are the opposite of nu metal in the sense that they do not incorporate a lot of inspiration from rap and hip hop and other electronic artists. However, they do take inspiration from the original metal creators as much as any other metal band is. However, they incorporate something else, something special. Early metalcore, as well as Killswitch Engage specifically, use a technique called fry screaming, which is an element of vocal screaming that distorts the person's voice and makes it seem louder. This in turn for Killswitch made their songs more aggressive and also gave way to the emotional lyrics of their songs. Killswitch Engage, much like Slipknot, have had many members over the past, most iconically their vocalist Howard Jones, who is arguably my favourite singer of Killswitch Engage. As his era of Killswitch Engage is what got me into the band in the first place, he uses his large vocal range, including with his amazing screams, to really put across the feeling and emotion in the songs. Albums such as The End of Heartache and Daylight Dies are some of the most iconic early metalcore albums in the world, and it makes their staple in the genre itself. However, this does not mean I do not like the new and returning vocalist Jesse Leach. He brings an element of tranquility to the band through his struggles with mental health, showcasing the ways people can improve and the way it has affected his life through his songwriting. The song you are currently hearing in the background of this collage is The Signal Fire, a song off one of their newest albums. Atonement features vocals from both Howard Jones and Jesse Leach. The Signal Fire, the song name, suggests of passing down a baton of sorts to a new generation, such as Howard Jones passes the vocalist role back to Jesse Leach through his departure of the band. The song also helps to signify the fact that the band had no bad blood and that the decision was between both parties, as well as being the right thing to do for both Howard Jones and Jesse Leach, who wanted to return. Throughout all of their albums, including their newest one, This Consequence, Killswitch proceeds to show how innovative they are throughout their genre, even though they are the founders of metalcore almost, and how they have brought that genre into the light. And they stand out to me as one of the best metal bands of all time, with the most iconic music and iconic members. And to this day, they still stand out in their genre, being able to show their music to new generations of fans that enjoy the music and the message created by these songs. And finally, a newer band on this list, formed in 2013, Knocked Loose are a hardcore metal band. Hardcore metal is considered to be quite aggressive and angry, with influences from punk, metal in general, and just all-out aggression created through lyrics and the cutthroat energy of the instruments. The way in which Knocked Loose stood out to me mainly is through Brian Garris's vocals, sounding as if he's almost screeching at the top of his lungs, rather than the more controlled vocals that we saw in Killswitch Engaged. This, in tandem with the fast guitars and drums, showcase an aggressive and angry style of music that lets you frustrate and vent your emotions. This genre of music is quite underground, usually featuring quite slow and heavier riffs as well as fast riffs, as you can hear mainly in Knocked Loose. Bands such as Tsunami, Dealer and Varials are all underground artists that contribute to the hardcore scene. However, there are some incredibly popular hardcore bands such as Speed, Hatebreed, Kublai Khan and Knocked Loose, which all contribute to the mainstream aspects and introduction of hardcore. Hardcore in itself is a new genre to me, and it is inherently aggressive, which is one thing I like about it. It lets you frustrate and get angry at something and have a fun time and get your emotions out. This and its unique blend of both metalcore and nu metal in some aspects makes it the perfect genre for people trying to get into heavier styles of metal that people may or may not have heard of. Knocked Loose have solidified their place in hardcore history, as they have brought hardcore music to the mainstream and have become almost famous in the public sphere due to their appearances on things such as Jimmy Kimmel Live, which helped propel them and their new album into the public eye. Knocked Loose also catch my eye through songs such as Mistakes Like Fractures, which focus on
The impact of mistakes.
as well as Don't Reach For Me, a song talking about independence and not helping others when they do not help you. And even their most popular song, Counting Worms, talking about being unable to create things due to mental stress and mental health.
These aspects of their music are what make them stand out to me and why I enjoy them.
After talking so much about mainstream bands, it makes me realise how important starting out is, and how local music itself is what brings these mainstream bands to life, and how supporting these venues and these bands and these places get new and more creative aspects of music out into the world. During my time filming, I travelled to this local gig in Wolverhampton to see how the music scene was doing. And despite it not being specifically a metal gig, I was pleasantly surprised
By the
community and support for these local bands that are starting out, creating new music and finding new ways to express themselves. To show to others that creating music is something fun and something that anyone can do with the right amount of lyrical
and technical know-how that they all use to create their own music. As you can hear, these people have worked hours and brainstormed ideas to create the music that they wish to play at these local venues.
to showcase to others that people can be creative and different in many other ways rather than following trends and becoming the same. And through this local gig, I found myself enjoying it very much and having a lot of fun through talking to the people and meeting the bands and even watching them play. It was all fun throughout the whole night, and I would recommend it to anyone looking to get into music.
Next week we do two metal bands with two separate subgenres of metal. One, a four-piece hardcore metal band, Eviscerated, formed right here in Bridal Hill. I talked to them about what inspired them to do what they do, as well as band recommendations and how metal itself inspired them to live their life and choose what to do. I also interviewed Anemia, a five-piece sludge band, who told me about how their presence helped the community and how they wish to continue as a fairly new band, and how they've done things and how their separate experiences have culminated together to form an opinion on the local metal scene and things in general. Anyways, I hope you enjoy and hear the interviews. Okay, what would you describe us as genre-wise?
I describe us as deathcore, hardcore.
Yeah, definitely on those lines, metalcore, deathcore kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd say that. Right. Okay. This is a critical thinking one. What got you into metal music?
For me, it was definitely, first of all, my dad. I mean, he was a massive metalhead growing up. Metal, like Metallica, Slayer, that kind of thing. So I got into Pantera, and then eventually my mates and stuff got me into Slipknot. From there, it just got heavier and heavier, and the steep slopes and
Yeah.
Oh, I think mine was just listening to it on the radio, like Limp Bizkit, stuff like that. But the main proper thing that got me into metal music was Deftones.
I'd say Slipknot was my gateway. My parents listened to Slipknot all the time, and I didn't really discover them on my own until like I'd watched videos and stuff, and I found out like, oh, that's what the songs are, and I got into that. And then I got into heavier stuff on my own and things like that. Yeah, I think that's like the usual like gateway to it. Just people find it through their parents or friends. And just
heavier.
Yeah, so just get heavier unless you just want to stay here and like find something fun.
No, you didn't.
Like those people are like 80s hair metal.
Yeah, so I started out with 21 Pilots, and then eventually
Yeah.
I've got to
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Criminal Pilots as
fucking
well, yeah.
Zavleg, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Noise metal.
How do you think you have helped create a community / expand the local community as a whole?
I think from being in past local bands and getting myself known in the local scene, starting out in a new metal band has helped grow because people already know like my face basically. So the followers from my previous band have come along for this one, and I already know like connections with promoters and venues, so we can just go straight into gigging.
Do you have recommendations for bands in the genre and as a whole?
In band recommendation,
Yeah.
I'd recommend Sleep Token and Slaughter to Prevail because both of them are very different but have their own technical differences that really make them interesting.
I mean, for me, Lorna Shore is definitely my top choice for that. And then other bands like 156 Silence were also awesome technical guitarists, technical vocals, that kind of thing.
Okay, I think the bass line, people just starting out with metal and the metal like subgenres. They started with like things like Deftones, you know, like the new metal kind of stuff, and maybe into like more of the harder stuff.
Any local metal bands or non-metal bands that you'd recommend?
I'd recommend Imperial Avenue because they have some really creative and good originals. But if you're looking for something a bit more funky and like not as mainstream, I'd recommend Looking to Go because they mix a bunch of genres and make some really good original songs.
I mean, I'm not familiar with like a lot of bands at the minute locally, but Imperial Avenue, I've been seeing a few of their gigs now. I mean, the guys are fucking ace, and the music's good. So
I would also think the same for but I would also say they went hiatus, but Man-Made Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, Infinix.
Yeah,
they went
that's the-
hiatus, yeah. They've got some pretty good songs.
They do.
Yeah.
I liked Exorcism.
Oh,
They
Exorcism
were
was
good.
good, yeah.
I've only seen them once, but they're really good.
Yeah, they're really good.
I'd say in terms of non-metal bands, I'd go Stack Brains. That's a very good
Yeah,
one.
they're really good.
And they always make like a good like sort of vibe.
They do that thing
and-
where they run around a lot as well.
Oh, yeah.
Drummers with the crowd participation.
Yeah.
Sadly, the band had run out of questions at this time, so on to the next interview.
We're in email.
What would you describe yourself as genre-wise?
99% sludge metal and 1% anything else we want to do.
Sludge. Yeah.
Yeah, stoner, sludge, like that sort of vibe with the rock and stuff.
Mainly sludge, but there are individual influences.
Yeah, I think sludge is like mainly hard, like a bit of hardcore.
Punk as well.
Do you have a specific / favourite genre that you want to play?
Yeah, we have a very collective, like we have a lot of bands that collectively we love and are all very, very influenced by. But outside of that, we do have very different tastes as well. So like I'm into a lot of like experimental stuff. I like the stuff in the world, I like minds. And then like I like all kinds of genres of metal, but sludge stays at the root of what I do in the band. And everybody else has their own kind of take on it.
What got you into metal music, like as a whole? Origin stuff?
I don't know.
I don't know his name. It was definitely like I'm in the same boat with Kieran. Like, my mum hates. Well, she doesn't hate it. It's not her music. Well, but she was more of like, my mum was more on the grunge side, so I started listening to like Alice in Chains, Nirvana, like Stone Temple Pilots really young, and then my dad also would play his metal CDs, and I think it was the obvious start was Sabbath, because that's what he'd play most of the time. But then it'd be like he'd move into like, I think the heaviest he used to get away with playing around me was like Sepultura, which is kind of funny that it's become my favourite band now. But Ren's not existing. Like, my dad dragged me to, because he found out I was listening to like, I started listening to a lot more stoner doom, so like a lot of Sleep, a lot of Electric Business, a lot of Cough. But my first gig was the one that dragged me to the Asylum, which was Orange Goblin, and that sort of started me down like the heavier, like slower, like it started me into the sludge pipeline instead of like sticking to new metal, sticking to like, and I think before that the heaviest I'd listened to was like Korn's The Nothing album, because he'd showed me it after a day at school in like year 9.
How do you think like you guys individually have helped create a movement / expand like the local scene?
Oh, okay. This one is a tough question considering how long have we been going now? When was our birthday? November the 14th, I think, or 14th.
Yeah, November was when we first like.
Yeah, so November, December, January, February, March, May. So we're 6 months in, and we've only just announced our first gig, which is happening in July, at Centrala. And
very solid one.
But we set out from the start to want to connect with like people in the scene and people that are going to be coming to our gigs and consuming our stuff very early on. So right from our very first rehearsal, we were already posting on the Instagram, making it clear what we were setting out to do. And through that, we've been lucky enough to have like friends and people that like we aren't even as close to that have just kind of recognised us, and we've had some bands recognise us and everything. Flesh Creep's a big one that we're really inspired by that have noticed us, which is just amazing. And we've been lucky enough to have some people buy our merch already, some patches and shirts and stuff. And people seem to be quite hyped, and we're really excited for our first gig and to be able to get going, and we've got some originals and a demo, and we're just keeping that connection with us and our audience going, regardless of whether we're going to be out and performing or not. We want to keep it, we want to keep everybody informed and make sure everybody's in on what we're doing as we are. I think that's the main thing for us.
How has metal music influenced like you guys individually in your life? Like the way you dress or the way you see people, things like that?
Well, I mean, the way I dress, I feel like it really defined me as a person when I was, younger, when I was first getting into stuff, because I was so obsessed with, bands and stuff like that. I was really looking up to them. Obviously, you buy those shirts and stuff. You'd also look up and look to how everyone else in that kind of group was dressing. So you kind of put yourself into that as well, try and base it off that. But I don't feel like I've ever really done that. I've always tried to be myself with it, you know what I mean? Like, there's, your staples of what people look like, do you know what I mean? But I don't know, I feel like I've always kept it to myself and kept it.
You just care.
Yeah, that's exactly, I'm just caring. That's how I like it. But yeah, I feel like it definitely inspired a lot of clothing choices, so, because things inspired. But yeah, I think
It sort of impacts all kind of social aspects on you, because when I was in my punk phase, you had all like the punk sort of messages and like left wing and this and that and this and that. And you've also got all these sort of ways they could dress, especially with crust punk. That I had all my crust bands and whatever. I don't really wear them anymore because they're just way too tight and you're just trying to. It's like training your legs. It's like a workout trying to wear them. You get to the gig and your legs are aching because they ain't much away. But yeah, it sort of impacts you socially with how you dress and sort of how you think, how you treat people, because there's a big community and some communities not so bigger. But yeah.
But getting into music and getting along with the people that you meet at gigs as well, I think helps. You know, looking at other people, how they dress as well. It's a community as Shay said. Yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, literally from as young as I can remember, I have not given a toss what anyone thinks about what I'm wearing. Whether I want to go out in spots and stripes, or whether I want to match, if I don't want to match, if I want to wear all black, if I want to go all colourful, whatever, I don't care what people think about it, and I never have. And I think the fact that gets you a lot of backlash kind of almost shapes the way that I dress and shapes the way I present myself and everything, because especially when I was younger, like 12, 13 as well, and you think you're so cool and everything. Every time somebody made a comment at me or was nasty to me about what I was wearing, the way I dressed, it just made me want to go a bit further and look a bit more extreme and everything. And it's just kind of developed into a bit of what I want when I want. And sometimes you'll see me and I look completely gothic, and sometimes you see me and I've got more colours on me than a pride flag. You never know.
Yeah, before I got into music, all I'd ever wear, Nike trainers, Nike joggers, Nike shirt, Nike hoodie, and I cared what everyone said about me. I could not stomach going out in anything different, but once you get into that sort of music, stop caring. There's much bigger things to worry about.
The best places for locals are going to be Central and Flatbush.
Yeah.
Right.
Mothers.
Mothers, Central and Flatbush Mothers. Yeah.
Then you've got the Dark Horse if you're into punk.
Dark Horse is really
The
good.
one that's
Castle Rock, yeah.
Tilt, because I know Pulsar.
Oh yeah, Pulsar are another local band that I love. Tilt, yeah, is a really good venue for that, isn't it?
Yeah. Probably for the better that it doesn't do stuff anymore. The Leachy.
I still work there. I need to leave. They don't even pay me. But
I'm getting
I'm not sure that's someone at work. No, not sure.
they don't even pay me minimum wage. I don't know why I still fucking work there.
Oh, KK's is a great venue.
I
What?
remember getting thrown over a table.
KK's is good.
Leachy.
Sometimes. No, KK's is always.
Admittedly, KK's is rare that any local bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Because it's more of a big venue.
But like I said, all the gigs they have there are fairly affordable. They're not ones.
Yeah,
That is true.
Yeah. Did we answer anything?
It's just rant.
No, thanks so much for having us. I can't lie, I think I was accidentally clicking buttons on this the entire time. So,
We'll find out.
I mean, it is very insightful, and just want to say thank you for giving us your time. It's been really good. Yeah, this whole thing is about identity. I think the task was so I wanted to get a broad range of people.